te utu o te aroha e.
Ue maira e ngā uri e ngā whakatipuranga o toi kaira kau.
E nā iwi nei rā te pāhotana mataora mō Whakaari te rā whakamaumaharatanga atu i te manu whenua o Ngāti Awa, arā te marae o te mānuka tūtahi i whakatāne. Nā reira, rarau mai rā. Welcome to our live broadcast here on the traditional meeting grounds of te mānuka tūtahi marae in Whakatāne, Aotearoa, New Zealand. Today, inside the ancestral meeting house of Mātātua, we remember and mourn those who were lost during the tragedy of White Island 1 year ago today. We also honour the efforts of those involved in the emergency response here in Whakatāne and around Aotearoa, New Zealand to care for survivors. COVID-19 and closed borders has prevented many families, both here and overseas, from attending today's ceremony. An official and more inclusive service for all is planned for the future. But for now, we come together to mark this sad day in our history.
Unuhia te utapunui kia mahea kia wātea. Uiara e rongo whakairihia ke kirunga kia tīna. Haumi e, hui e, tāiki e. Orangi nui e tui honei, o papatua nuku e takoto nei. Ara te pū o hai ana, te ata pū ki runga o Whakaari. Rū ana te maunga, rū ana te ngā kau i te rironga wakurau tītapu. O te aunga o te moika koutou, moi mai rā, moi mai rā. Moi mai rā!
Kaure ko waku au e kimi ana, e hahau ana, ngā parirai ngā pini ngā haku aku mai.
We've seen pictures of a government MP and minister of the Labour Party, Labour government, Peni Henare.
Hara mai te toki haumi e, hui e, tāiki e. Kāti e o kurangatira.
He is one of the first speakers of the official party that has just been welcomed onto the marae and is going through traditional acknowledgements of the mana and the prestige of the local iwi, Ngāti Awa, acknowledging their dead, their ancestors, and the tribal boundaries on which they stand.
Uri tua hau i roto i tōku waka, na tōku tukuna i pānako. Rā, ka tiki nā tua hau i tōku matua aru i teila. Rā, ka tiki nā tu, te rao ngā hautupua ki roto i au, ka ki atu, koia te tahi o ngā kai pānako.
Seeing pictures of representatives of the New Zealand Defence Force who were prominent in the emergency services response during last year's eruption. We also have members of the government and ministries that also took part in that emergency response.
Ka tika wakahokia mai ngā rārangi kōrero ki a tātou e ngā tiawa. E mihi atu ana hau ki a koutou, me te ki atu, me hi mai, karanga mai, ki ngā mana tike, ki ngā pou, ki ngā tunuaki, ki ngā minita, ki ngā piha, kua tatu iho mai, hai whakanui ake, hai whakamau mahara ake.
The commemorative ceremony will take place within the ancestral House of Mātātua. It's one of the most prominent meeting houses of the tribe of Ngāti Awa. In its 130-year history, Mātātua, this traditional meeting house of Ngāti Awa, travelled to Sydney, Melbourne, Victoria, and the United Kingdom. There in London, it spent 40 years in storage after a short period as a museum exhibit. It returned to New Zealand in 1925 and was displayed by the Otago Museum in Dunedin. Locally, Mātātua is known as the house that came back after such a long and travelled history. It was finally repatriated by Ngāti Awa, who brought it home to Whakatane in 2011. Where it was restored and rebuilt to take pride of place in Whakatane. Many of the tribe's major events, such as today's commemorative ceremony, is held here at Mātātua. Today's program will feature Joe Harawira. He chairs Te Runanga o Ngāti Awa, the local tribal authority, and will preside over today's program. We will hear speeches from the Governor-General of New Zealand, Dame Patsy Reddy, our Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, and the Mayor of Whakatane, Judy Turner. One rather poignant aspect will be messages from families who couldn't be here today. These will be read to those who are gathered. We'll also hear from A.V. Woods. She'll be making a speech. A.V. is the mother of the White Island tour guide, Hayden Marshall Inman, who died on Whakaari-White Island. And at 11 minutes past 2 this afternoon, there will be a minute's silence to remember those who lost their lives. It's usual after speeches of welcome for a song to be held or to be performed, and that's what's happening at the moment. Penny Henley, a cabinet minister of the Labour government, is just wrapping up his speech. In his hand he holds a donation, another custom, where those visitors will contribute to the cost of holding such an event. In more traditional times, rather than money. This contribution would take the form of traditional cloaks, prized cloaks, food, even a wife or two sometimes. It's considered undignified to chase after an envelope that's been blown along the ground by the wind. Joe Harawira, the chair of Te Runana o Ngāti Awa, the local tribal authority, is now thanking manuhiri or visitors for their kind donation. Due to COVID-19, some of the more traditional aspects of the welcome ceremony, or pōhiri, have been set aside. Usually, people will greet by shaking hands, pressing noses with hongi. Today, the call of Maori ora is how both the tangata whenua, or local people, greet their visitors. And this is a salutation of good health to all. Members of the official party are now being directed into the ancestral meeting house of Mātātua. We're running a little behind schedule at the moment due to the late arrival of the official party. You can control a lot of things, but flights are another matter. Within Mātātua, the meeting house, you'd see that there is quite a lot of space between seating. Again, social distancing is being practiced on the marae and within the house. This, of course, has limited numbers for today's ceremony within Mātātua. There we have an elder of Ngāti Awa, Kei Merito, leading Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister, and the Governor General, Deb Patsy Reddy, into the house. Entering the house is Suhirini Moko Mead, who was largely responsible for the repatriation of Mātātua. He considers it one of the most important roles he has ever played in his life. It is customary to remove shoes when going into a wharenui or meeting house, which is representative of an ancestor. Who holds you within its care. Accompanying the Prime Minister and the Governor General is another Cabinet Minister, Kiritapu Allen. As well as dignitaries of the government and the Crown, We also have members of the emergency services who responded during the aftermath of Whakaari-White Island, as well as members of families who were affected by the eruption, who were injured, and those who died. As I mentioned earlier, social distancing is being practiced within the whare. Seating is well spaced. It does limit the number of people who can enter the ancestral meeting, but others are following proceedings on the large screen outside on the marae ātea, or the foreground of the meeting house, where they can watch and listen to the ceremony. Last members of the official party are just finding their seats. The first speaker will be the Governor-General of New Zealand, Dame Patsy Reddy. She's a former lawyer and businesswoman. She's been in office as the Governor-General of New Zealand since 2016. If I remember correctly, she's only one of 3 women who has held this particular office. The second speaker of today will be Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who is probably one of the country's most popular politicians. Under her leadership, the Labour Party won a historic landslide victory in the general election in October this year, landing nearly half of all votes cast, the best result for the Labour Party in 50 years. And that's Judy Turner, who is also a former MP and became the Mayor of Whakatane in October last year, just 2 months before the tragedy of Whakaari-White Island. The local tribe of Ngāti see healing as its biggest priority in the aftermath of this tragedy, and one of the ways they're doing it is to mark the 1-year anniversary.
O pā te whatitiri hiko te uira, I ka napu I te rangi, ruana te whenua, au e hā. Nei rā ka tau toko atu nā mihi, ko utaina ki runga ki a koutou. Ko te atu mai I rungi te reo karanga, no reira tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our first speaker to begin our remembrance service. I would like to introduce to you Her Excellency Dame Patsy Reddy, Governor-General of Aotearoa, New Zealand, to take the podium.
I might give you a job one day. We're over to them now. Ngā te awa ki te rangi, ngā te awa ki te whenua, ngā te awa tāngata. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Mā tātua whare, te whare homaru ai, i te tangata, i te wā, o te pahutanga o Whakaari. E tū, no te karanga o te rā, kia tau mai aho, i runga i te aroha. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. I specifically acknowledge the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern, the Honourable Pini Henare, Minister of the Crown, other Ministers of the Crown and MPs present today, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Her Worship Judy Turner, Mayor of Whakatane, Joe Harawira, Chairman of Te Runanga o Ngāti Awa. Tēnā koutou. I offer my sincere thanks to Ngāti Awa for bringing us together in Mā Tātua, where we can share our sorrow and draw strength from one another on this first anniversary of the Whakaari eruption. I cannot imagine a more fitting or more beautiful place for this gathering. The 9th of December is a dark day in our nation's history and also in the family histories of visitors from Australia, the United Kingdom, the United States, Germany, China, and Malaysia. To the families of the 22 people who lost their lives as a result of the Whakaari eruption, I extend my deepest condolences on behalf of all New Zealanders. Today, we acknowledge also the many acts of courage and compassion we witnessed on the 9th of December last year and in the days that followed. During what would have seemed like a very long boat journey back to Whakatane, members of the tour group reached out to the injured and dying, providing comfort and relief where they could. I salute everyone involved in the rescue and recovery operations, including members of our Defence Force who put themselves in harm's way and acted with courage and professionalism. Then there were the heroic efforts of the first responders, the pilots and the paramedics and the many other medical professionals who faced unprecedented challenges and persevered in their tireless efforts to save lives on the day of the tragedy and in the many weeks and months that followed. People in the community stepped forward to help wherever they could. And Ngāti Awa extended aroha and manaakitanga to families struggling with grief and loss. This wharenui, Mā Tātua, became their house of refuge. The lives of the survivors of the eruption will never be the same. People injured that day had to draw on all their reserves of strength, physical and emotional, in their commitment to survive months of surgery and rehabilitation. In 2020, when we look back on all of these responses to this terrible event, we can see parallels with our current circumstances. This year, every nation has been delivered yet another cruel reminder of human vulnerability in our relationships with the natural world. It's a year when we've all been challenged to think beyond ourselves and act for the public good. The citizens of Aotearoa, New Zealand have affirmed that by committing to work together for the well-being of others, by acting with courage and kindness and doing what needs to be done, we collectively find what we need to get through this most testing of times. As suggested by this whakatauki, he mea nui te aroha e pahere nei I ngā tāngata, a Wairua, a Māori, a mana, a tapu. Love for each other is what binds humanity in times of tragedy and grief, through our spirit, our essence, our integrity, and that which is sacred. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora.
tika, nau mai haere mai ki roto I tō tātou whare e noho ruruhau mā tātou katoa. You will have heard the words in Dame Patsy Reddy's speech about this being a house of refuge. Nau mai hoki mai. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call upon the Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Tēnā tātou katoa, ka ronga tono e te nau o te māmai, ka tangi tono te nākau, mō te hunga e rero e te parikura nui o Whakaari, ka rongo hoki e te aroha, koutou o te pō, haere, tātou o te ao, tēnā tātou katoa. The Governor-General and to the many honoured guests here today. Just after 2 p.m. on 9 December 2019, 1 year ago, Whakaari-White Island erupted. There were 2 explosions, one after the other in quick succession. In the minutes and hours that followed, the enormity of the tragedy became apparent, no more so than for this community here in Whakatane. 47 people had been on the island when it erupted. 22 lives were tragically lost, and survivors were severely hurt. In a nation that had experienced so much loss and pain in recent times, 9 December 2019 was devastating. In a community like Whakatane, nearly everyone would know someone involved either on the island or involved in the emergency response. That made it so deeply personal. From the first responders and hospital staff who I met the next day, to those on the water and in the air who flew directly into danger with little regard for their own safety to rescue the injured on the island, thank you. What you did was courageous, and nothing, now or in the future, will ever change that. Today we remember those who passed away, those who were injured, their whānau and everyone affected by this tragic event. And we do take the time to thank all those involved in the response and recovery operations. Alongside first responders, there was the work of those in central and local government. I acknowledge you, Mayor, Whakatane District Council, Ngāti Awa, private businesses, volcano scientists who work with police and the Defence Force to support the recovery. This was an extraordinarily challenging event, and I know it affected everyone personally and deeply. I also want to acknowledge the health professionals right across the country who worked tirelessly to provide expert support to those injured. I met many of you in the weeks after the eruption. You gave your all to support the recovery of those affected. The impacts of this eruption were felt here on our shores, with the loss of Tipene, Mangi, and Hayden Marshall Inman, but it was also felt acutely abroad too. Most of those on the island that day were visitors from Australia, the United States, Germany, the United Kingdom, China, and Malaysia. A sign of the connection in particular with Australia is that in February of this year, with the blessing of Ngāti Awa, we presented the Governor-General of Australia with pieces of whakaari, an acknowledgement of the fact that our Australian whānau lost their loved ones on our shores too. I want to send a message of araha and support to the survivors overseas, their families and those who lost their loved ones, as well as those who are here with us in the room today. We share in your sorrow, and Aotearoa will always be connected to you, and that connection has been supported so strongly by Ngāti Awa. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou. You opened your marae, provided food and shelter for extended families and whānau and a number of other visitors. Many families commented on how important and special that was to them. In fact, I'd like to conclude my brief remarks with not my words, but the words of a family member of those lost, who wrote to me with the following. Just under 4 weeks ago, I lost my beautiful family in the White Island volcano disaster. It has taken me this long to be able to even begin to process the events of that day and the days after. Such has been my grief and that of my entire family. And it's taken me this long to even understand the unbelievable efforts of the many, many people and services that risked their lives to bring the bodies of my family home and to allow the injured family to get to hospital for care, where they were able to pass away in peace. My family has visited your beautiful country many times, and if something as devastating as this was going to happen, I'm so grateful it had to happen in New Zealand, where I know their souls will always rest in peace and natural beauty and love. And so I conclude by reflecting, as I did 1 year ago in Parliament, on the place where this tragedy occurred. Just sitting off Whakaari is a place called Te Paipai o Aotea. It's a collection of toka that jut out of Te Moana Nui Atoi. For some of the Matatua tribes, it is where those who have passed on begin their journey into the afterlife. I say to those who have lost and grieve, you are forever linked to this place and our nation, and we will continue to hold you close. Haere, haere, haere atu rā.
Thank you, the Honourable Jacinda Ardern. We have a saying, ngā pakitara e iri nei I ngā kōrero. The walls which hold the words that have been spoken. So the words that have been spoken so far and the words to be spoken will be woven into the fabric of our whare and be here forever. Kia ora whānau, I would like to call upon the Manukura, Mayor of Whakatane, Judy Turner.
Ko te mihi tuatahi ki tō tātou ātua, I ne mātei o te wā, haere, haere, haere. Kia tātou te hunga ora, tēnā koutou. Ko putuā ki te maunga, ko Ngāti awa te mana whenua, tēnei te reo pohiri mai, Manukura o Whakatane. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I too want to extend a welcome to all our guests and dignitaries who are here with us today. Thank you for being part of this. And I acknowledge all those people coming together as individuals, as whānau, communities, not only here in Whakatane, but throughout our nation and internationally, to remember and to reflect on the events of 12 months ago. Today our thoughts are sharply focused on those most impacted by this terrible tragedy. He roi mata ua, he roi mata tangata, tears of rain, tears of the people. Nothing that we say or do will counter the devastation and loss that survivors and families that lost loved ones have had to live through every day since the 9th of December 2019. And so today we pause to reflect on what took place, remember those who have passed, think of the survivors, thank those who responded, acknowledge those who continue to care for and support the injured, and recognise the pain and suffering that still exists. The events of last December shook us to the core. I recall visiting the Whakatane fire station on the morning following the eruption with our Prime Minister to meet with the teams of first responders, and the emotion inside the station was plain to see and to feel. But what was also evident was the overriding sense of camaraderie. Those we met with were looking after and supporting one another, just as we've continued to experience throughout our communities during the past year. And so we are eternally grateful for what our first responders and healthcare professionals did on that day and what they continue to do. The days, weeks and months following the eruption have also had a significant effect on our local communities, including our business community and particularly those involved in the tourism industry. And this, of course, was compounded by COVID-19. But we do continue to work on our district's recovery, and I acknowledge the support that we have been receiving from central government in this respect. It's at times like these where you realise how important it is to have those regional and national support networks. It's clear that we will never be the same again, but we are hoping that today's shared events and reflections may help bring some healing and some comfort. I'm very proud of the way our people have worked together to support one another through these difficult times. And I'd like to thank in particular Ngāti Awa for their manaakitanga in bringing us together for mutual care and support here at this beautiful marae, and for their ongoing guidance as we travel this journey together. We in the Whakatane district will continue to welcome people to our area with open arms, sharing in the way that New Zealanders are well known for. As a resilient community, we will step forward into the future. Yet our hearts and minds will always look back to the stories and people who shaped us, and we will always remember. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Ngā mihi kia koe e te manukura. I would like to call upon Evie Woods. Evie is the mother of Hayden, who passed away on the island. Please, Evie, take the podium.
Great light. I'm grateful that I'm here today to be able to talk to everybody here and thank you. I've got my trusty little tissue and I've got my little paper clips. I've made notes here. I'll probably waver off. I'll try not to go too long. Our family lost Hayden to Whakaari a year ago. He was a son, a stepson, a brother, an uncle, a godfather, a best buddy to Dawn in Australia, and to Tony here in Whakatane. His American family in the YMCA camp of Maine, and the family in Australia, and not forgetting his Canadian family. Most of them wish they could be here today, but they can't because of COVID, but that's fine because I'm here and I can talk. Hayden was a loving, open, honest, kind man who would do anything to help another, even give the shirt off his back. There were 21 other loved ones that also died as a result of the day. My heart goes out to all their families, as well as the overwhelming process of coping with the loss of grief. I was going to talk about Hayden today, but I think everybody knows who Hayden is. I think there's been a lot, and I think he's a bit too popular at the moment. So I'm going to talk a little about how I feel and how grief affects us, because grief actually affects everybody very differently. There is no right, there is no wrong. We cannot forget all those that were actually injured on that day as well. They have a long road ahead of them of what happened for years and may never ever forget it. Well, I don't think they would. What do you say when you lose a son and you break down on the beach, calling out his name, sobbing, and a stranger comes up behind you, puts their arms around you, whilst you cry, you wail, you sob, call out his name? That was a day just after Hayden had died. To this day, I do not know who that lady was on the beach. And I hope she is listening, because that just shows you what a community we are and how powerful that felt that day. As I said, no one can tell us how to grieve, because we grieve in our own time. And I believe that no one ever gets over the loss of a loved one. We go through so many emotions. There's shock, denial, tears, pain, anger, depression, and yes, thoughts of suicide. And not forgetting that marriages split up and families fall apart. The first year is supposed to be the hardest of all the first day, the first birthday, the first Christmas, the anniversary as it is today. But then comes the second year, and you're still going to have to go through those same dates. And the third year, Hayden's birthday is the 11th of May. He was actually born on Mother's Day. So I actually find it extra hard in May, because he's not here. Every year I've had a card from Hayes. This is the first year that I've never had one. Taking each day as it comes, little steps moving forward, and get on with Hayden's life without Hayden. I have to get on and move forward as he would have wanted me to. I won't lie, it's extremely hard. It hits you out of the blue. You can be in the shop and suddenly, bang, you're full of tears. But not for me, being only the mum. All our family has been torn apart. Everybody has been torn apart through this. Hayden was a beautiful soul from the day he was born. We had a different kind of bond. As he grew up, that become stronger. He was and still is my rock, although I have a second rock now, my husband Woody. Hayden loved me for who I am, just as I loved him for who he was. He never tried to change me nor him, because that's how I brought him up. You accept people for who they are, good or bad, whatever. I still wait for his texts. What's for dinner, Mum? When's Woody making the next bacon and egg pie? And yes, Woody did make a good bacon and egg pie. Love you, and the love you mums. Or, to this day, I still miss his ute backing down our driveway, just to call in to see Mum or have dinner. We all have our own memories of Hayden, and I do. I have mine. Some of mine are, as all mums know, Hayden was a part of me, just as though he was a part of me, a part of him. The day he was born, I couldn't hold him for 2 hours because he was in an incubator. So for me, the special time that I held him for the first time was so precious. Watching him grow from the first day at kindy, then school, teenage years, the partying that they do, the different people coming to your house, and then into adulthood. I'm proud of who Hayden is, and I still say is, because for me, he's still here. One of his traits that everybody knows has been that he's never wears shoes. He might wear jandals, although in work purposes he will wear shoes. He's been like that from dot. Also, one of his traits is his hairstyles. I was recently going through some photos, and suddenly I clicked. He was me. I had curly hair, long hair, blonde hair, short, long, and even the dreaded afro. Yep, I couldn't believe that. But as for his mutton chops that he always had, he certainly didn't get those off me. Hayes had a love of art and sketching. Each year he went off to camp, I would give him a sketchbook. In total, there are 18 sketchbooks that he has written in, drawn in, and put his own notes. Barry, who was his camp director in Maine, said that any little time, what little time Hayden had, he would be writing in that book or sketching. He had a love of outdoors adventure, sport, fishing, diving, helping others. His most loved places at home were Whakaari and Tararua Falls, but not forgetting our beautiful beach, Ahopi. And that's where I feel connected to Hades. I will go down there every day because that's how I'm coping, that's how I grieve, because that is my connection to Hayden. One of the last acts of kindness Hayden did approximately 10 days before he died. Woody and I and Hayes had gone out for dinner at the Go Global restaurant. Normally we have a steiny, because everybody knows Hayden has steinies. But we didn't that night. I said, Hayes, do you want a wine? He said, yeah. I said, well, and I said, okay. And he said, what sort do you want? What glass? He said, no glass. We're going to have a bottle tonight, which is unusual. Yeah, it was the most expensive one there too, but it was good. As we come up a Hopi Hill, there's a lady that picks up rubbish on the side of a Hopi Hill. Also, she's out at the hub in Whakatane. She does it summer, winter. Hayden dropped us off, said goodbye, love you mum, gave me a hug. And he said, I'm going back to give that lady a jacket, a high-vis jacket, so she could be seen and be safe. And that's who he was. I'd also like to say, I'm so lucky to have a loving support team of friends that are now my family. And some of them are here today. I thank each and every one of you because you've all helped me in so many ways. You've been there at the drop of a hat to support me and even put up with my bossing around. My special thanks go to Dawn in Australia. She has adopted me as her mum. She told me she cannot take Hayden's shoes, but she can actually replace them in many other ways. She was his soulmate for 30 years. And looking at photos of the two of them, you can see that that's what it was. I'd also like to thank Leanne, an amazing liaison and support officer. And unfortunately, we've become friends, so she's stuck with me now. Faith, my incredible friend who can't be here. She was my sounding board, my consultant, my whatever. But she's also my sister from another mother. I'd also like to thank Judy. She keeps my feet grounded and a special friend. So many people have told me how strong I am through this time of grief. I don't think I'm strong. And if I am, it's because I'm doing just what Hayes would have wanted me to do. He would want me to pick myself up and get on with life. Live life to the fullest as he would. Make memories, he would say. So I'm taking little steps at a time. And it's his strength and his spirit and his inspiration that keeps me going. And that's one of the reasons I go to the beach every morning and every night. I miss him so much. We all miss him, as we all, not just me, but all those others that were lost that day on the island. And my heart goes out to every single one of them. Just one more hug. Just one more, I love you, Mum. But I know he's in our hearts forever. Whakaari is a perfect place for Hayes. He loved Whakaari. He loved Tararua. And I don't think he'd mind me saying, because we often, as we were a family, we would always talk about what do you want to do when you pass, jokingly. Never think it's going to come true. When he was young, he wanted to be cremated and put on a boogie board and sent out to sea. As he grew up, he got the love of outdoors. So his two choices were Whakaari, but apparently that would have been illegal. His second choice was Tararua Falls. And where is he? In his first choice, Whakaari. And he's the guardian there, and he's looking after Wainono, that's out there as well. And plus, she's a little bit younger than him too, so who knows what's happening out there. Plus, he's got the sea. He's got all the food he wants, the crays, and who cares about what size they are. Hayden was a gentle, loving, worldly man gone too soon, also known as the last man off. A very special person wrote this poem for me. I feel a warmth, a sense of pressure. I listen, I hear. It is just different. A longing for what was keeps me looking for what may be. Alas, there is no touch. There is no hug. I know he is near. It is just different. To everybody out there, here, those that have lost loved ones, those that are the injured, as a community, we all work together. We're all together as one. Doesn't matter who you are, where you work, where you live. I have to thank the community for the support that they have given. Ngāti Awa, the government, everybody. First year has now just about, first anniversary has gone. Moving forward, I have to keep going, I will, as I know others will struggle as well. I have also, as I promised at Hayden's celebration of life, finished the first picture of Whakaari in oil paints, and it went up on my Instagram last night. If you want to have a look at it, it's abby.nz. So watch the space for some more. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Anytime you feel you need support, Ngāti Awa will be here to support you. And it goes for all of the families as well. Whānau, with the COVID border restrictions, we offer an opportunity to those families overseas to send in a video clip or have some messages read out. We're going to play for you now a video clip which will be followed by 6 readings. Kia ora.
Our names are Matt and Lauren Yuri, and we live in Richmond, Virginia, in the United States. 1 year ago today, our lives and the lives of 45 others changed forever. Our deepest condolences go out to all of the others on the island that fateful day and their families who have suffered from this horrible tragedy. It is difficult to believe that a year has gone by already when it feels like this just happened yesterday. While we have been forever changed by that day and will certainly never forget it, we are doing our best to move forward.
From the shadow of that eruption, we have met so many kind and wonderful people and would like to thank them for all they have done to help us survive and continue on our recovery journey. Among the countless people that have helped us in some way, we want to express our gratitude to the fellow tourists on board the Phoenix who went above and beyond to provide us emergency first aid and console us during the trip back to Whakatane. The hospital staff at Whakatane Hospital that stabilized us for transport to the burn centers and even helped us get in contact with loved ones to let them know what had happened.
The New Zealand police liaisons who comforted and assisted our families while we were in the hospital, the dozens of New Zealanders who sent our families kind messages, gifts to make them more comfortable, and even offered places for them to stay while we were being treated. The medical teams in the United States at VCU Health and Johns Hopkins Medicine that have continued our treatment and recovery since we returned.
Our fellow survivors with whom we have formed many friendships and have even become our own support group. Our families, we could not have made it to this point without their unwavering support throughout this journey. The countless people across the world who have sent supportive messages and generous donations towards our recovery.
And of course, the amazing medical teams at Middlemore and Christchurch hospitals that treated our injuries and got us started with recovery. From the doctors and nurses in the ICU and burn wards to the hand therapists, physiotherapists, and other hospital staff, there is no way we would be here today without all of the combined efforts you put forward. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you all so very much. You have all helped in some way make a horrible tragedy more bearable for us and our families. While we will continue to try to put the eruption behind us, we will never forget the outpouring of kindness and support we have received, and we will be forever grateful.
Hello, I'm Nick.
And I'm Marion.
And we're the London family from Sydney, Australia. On this occasion, we firstly want to acknowledge the family and friends of those who were lost as a result of the eruption on this day last year. We share your grief, and your departed will be forever in our hearts and minds. We hope you feel surrounded by as much love as we've had, and we hope that that love gives you comfort going forward. Our road has been long and bumpy, and we're not to the end of our journey yet. But people often ask us how we're feeling, and we tell them, we're not great, but we're grateful. And we're grateful for all the people who have helped us along that road. And we'd like to take this opportunity to publicly thank them. To our tour guides on the day, Kelsey and Jake, your quick thinking and your decisiveness gave us a chance for survival.
To the crew and passengers of the Phoenix, which rescued us from the island, and in particular to the young man who sheltered us from the sun with his bare torso.
To the first responders, the doctors and the nurses in Whakatane and Christchurch hospitals, who despite being overwhelmed were there for us and were our difference between survival and not. To the RAAF, and the Australian and New Zealand governments, we thank you for getting us back home.
To the entire team at Concord Burns Unit, all absolutely amazing people. We can't put into words how much you have done and continue to do for us. Also the allied health staff at St George and Sutherland hospitals for helping with physio and hand therapy.
To our friends and family, especially Colin, Christine and John, for being there for us when we needed it the most. And especially to my brothers at Barton Ridge Football Club, for all your help and support in our recovery.
To the New Zealand Police and the Australian Federal Police, especially to the New Zealand officer who hugged our kids when we were unable to.
And lastly, but above all, to our kids, Louise and Matthew and his partner Ashley, who in our eyes have become our superheroes, and they are the foundations on which our ongoing recovery is being built. Our heartfelt thanks to all, and we hope that you all find peace in your journeys going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Ivy and Rick Reed from the United States. This is the last picture taken of us before our lives were forever changed. There are no words to adequately describe the horror we experienced on December 9th, 2019. However, we are very grateful to be among the 25 fortunate members of the group who survived the White Island eruption. Our hearts are broken for those 22 people who lost their lives, and we send our heartfelt condolences to their families. We want to take this opportunity to thank the many people who assisted in our rescue and who made our survival possible. Starting with the passengers on board the Phoenix, if you hadn't turned around and come back to rescue us, we would have been stranded there, critically injured, with no other rescue coming for us, and surely the outcome would have been much worse. You weren't rescue professionals, just ordinary tourists like us. We imagine it was traumatic for all of you, but please know that you were our heroes that day. Thank you. We'd also like to thank all the first responders in Whakatane who assisted once we arrived back on shore. And thank you to the medical team at Tauranga Hospital who cared for us the first 2 nights before we were transferred to the National Burn Center at Middlemore Hospital. The care we received at Middlemore for over 7 weeks was excellent. Everyone was professional, but also warm and caring and helpful. More than anything, we appreciate the effort that went into keeping us together and ensuring we were able to visit once we were stable to do so. The people of New Zealand were so kind and generous to us. We received many cards, gift baskets, well wishes, and donations from acquaintances, friends of friends, and complete strangers. We are humbled by this generosity, and we thank you for being so thoughtful to 2 strangers. Being critically injured and stranded overseas, far from family and friends, to be treated so warmly by the people of New Zealand was heartwarming and comforting. Lastly, we'd like to thank the medical team who arranged our return and transfer to a U.S. burn center and who also accompanied us back to the U.S. We hope to return to New Zealand one day. We'd like to resume touring such a beautiful country. Maybe we will connect with some of you. We wish the other survivors good health and continued progress in their recovery. You are all regularly in our thoughts. Thank you for letting us share on this solemn day.
My name's Meredith Dallow from Adelaide, South Australia, and I'm the twin sister of Gavin Dallow, who tragically lost his life on White Island on December the 9th last year. Today, just like every day we have for the last 12 months, we mourn the loss of Gavin along with all our family. And especially today, we think of the survivors and the families of those who lost their lives on that day.
I'm the sister of Rick, who tragically lost his life on Whakaari with his beautiful girlfriend Carla. It was important to me and my family to bring you guys here today, because while their spirits left their body over there, this is their final resting place. This is their home.
Hi, I'm Peter Elder. I'm Rick's father, and I'd just like to add to what my daughter said. Since the tragic event of last September, our family has gone through sadness, but at the same time, we come together and rejoice in the times, the good times and the happiness that we shared with our son and his partner. And it's really brought our families together in such a way that we never could have envisioned. And we now, I think, we all look at life a little different, and we go forward in the knowledge that Rick is with us at every step.
Hello everyone, I'm Li Wei from Shanghai, China.
2019年12月9号的类似火山爆发，改变了我的人生。
The eruption totally changed my life.
但是我还是非常非常感谢新西兰的那些英雄们，他们给了我再一次生的机会。
Thanks to the heroes the medical workers that I'm still alive.
我永远不会忘记他们，就像我永远记得9号那一天一样。
I will never forget them.
我的手现在成了这样，我不知道今后的生活将如何过，但是我会努力。
I'll stay positive, keep a bright mind, and go through it.
谢谢大家。
Thank you.
Dad, I still remember the feeling of my heart sinking into my stomach when I saw Mum's name pop up on my phone. I remember the tears in my eyes when she told me a volcano had erupted and that you weren't accounted for. I will never forget the last time I heard your voice over the phone when you told me you were okay. The relief I felt, the comfort your voice gave me. That was you, though. Even in the unimaginable state you were in, you still did everything you could to reassure all of us. Not a day goes by where I don't think about the amazing dad you were to your 3 girls, the amazing role model you were, and the impact you made on all of our lives. There isn't a single night where I don't close my eyes and see your smiling face looking back at me. Our lives will never be the same without you. You made us the people we are today, and the 4 of us will forever be grateful for that. You will never be forgotten, as you will always live on in our memories and hearts. We will continue to love and cherish you from here until we meet again. Thank you.
Kia ora tātou. We will, at 11 minutes past 2, a bell will signal for a minute's silence. We will all stand. We will uphold the minute's silence, and to end the 1 minute silence, we'll have a karanga from one of our kuia. We have a couple of minutes before we have our minute's silence. So I'm just going to do a bit of a kōrero. I was privileged to go out onto the boat the morning to take the families out to Whakaari on one of the mornings, 4 o'clock in the morning. We were going out there. I was accompanied by our kaumātua, Te Kei Merito, and a couple of the Ngāti Awa whānau, plus the families of Tipene and Hayden. We got out there, did what is tika for we as iwi, and to carry out our protocols and karakia. And then I spoke to the families on the boat whilst we were out there. And I talked to them about we speak a lot in metaphor. Māori speak a lot in metaphor. And I spoke to them about this metaphor, tini whetū ki te rangi, ka mautonu, ka mautonu. Tini tangata ki te whenua, ngaro noa, ngaro noa, ngaro noa. The stars that glisten upon the black hair of night will always remain there forever, but people on the land will be lost. And I talked about those who had lost loved ones on the island in terms of keeping that connection. And I talked to them on the boat about every night when you look up under the black hair of night and you see those stars twinkling, pick the brightest one. I will walk outside, I will look up and I will pick the brightest of the stars and say, kia ora, Mum, how are you today? I didn't get a pay rise today, but that's okay, and have a conversation. Whatever you want to express. They say that time heals, but that healing takes time. And it is our hope that we are all in that process of healing ourselves from the tragedy almost 1 year ago. And so we are fast approaching. We have 1 minute to, it's 2 minutes past 10 at this particular moment in time. When we hear the bell ring, I would like us all to stand and we will observe that minute's silence.
Tēnā rā koutou katoa, tēnā rā koutou katoa, tēnā rā tātou. Kua tutuki nei a tātou tēnei rā whakamaumaharatanga mō rātou I pare kurahia I pare kurahia nei e. Tēnā rā koe te matu o te rangi, nā hau nei ho mai tēnei āhuatanga, hei whakawāte I tēnei rā mō mātou e. Tēnā rā koutou, tēnā rā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa.
Please be seated. We now have some readings from whānau from overseas. Kia ora.
A message from Barbara Whitehead. She's the sister of Julie and aunt of Jessica Richards from Australia. In loving memory of Julie and Jessica Richards, mother and daughter, best friends. It is hard to believe that 1 whole year has passed since we last saw your beautiful faces. There is not a day goes by that every member of the Eborn and Whitehead families do not think of you both and shed a tear. We feel you watching over us every day and often see signs that you are with us in spirit, making sure we are okay. We all miss you so much. You're always in our hearts and thoughts, never forgotten, always loved. Those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day, unseen, unheard, but always near, still loved, still missed, and very dear.
A message from Meredith Boney, close family friend of Julie and Jessica Richards. A year ago, our worlds turned upside down with the news we had possibly lost our beautiful friends. When it was confirmed, we knew things would never be the same. They have left a huge void in our lives that can never be filled. 2 amazing women we loved like family, always remembered and who will never be forgotten. It is hard to believe a year has passed. Our tears are slowly turning into smiles as we think of the strong will and determination they both had in this world. They showed kindness to everyone they met. Julie always listened to others, and Jessica
had an ability to connect with animals from a very young age. Julie and Jess's beloved dog Amy has been a comfort, and she's enjoyed endless pets and cuddles, which have helped us through this heartbreaking time. We take some comfort in knowing they are now eternally together in spirit, just as they were inseparable in life. Today we wish we could be in New Zealand to show our respects, but unfortunately this was not possible. We hold you close within our hearts, and there you will remain, to walk with us throughout our lives until we meet again.
A message from Mari and Stephanie Browett. Mari and Stephanie Browett from Australia lost their husband and father, Paul Browett, as well as daughter and sister, Crystal Browett, in the White Island eruption. Crystal had just turned 21, days before the eruption. She never got to be an adult. She never realised her dreams and aspirations. Stephanie was gravely injured, sustaining burns to over 70% of her body. As I'm sure you can all appreciate, for Stephanie and Mari, the anniversary of the eruption is incredibly difficult, and this event is not straightforward. It is important that the lives of Paul Browett and Crystal Browett are remembered. It is also important that Stephanie's life-changing injuries are remembered.
Message from Lisa Dello, wife of Gavin Dello and mother of Zoe Hosking from Australia. My darling husband and beloved daughter, today, on this day, our life ended. You have gone home. My dear husband, in your life you gave everything to others. Your service to the community was substantial. Your love for your family without question. You made such a tremendous impact on Zoe's life. Now we are lost without you. All those who knew you are thinking of you today. Your family and friends in Rotary, tennis, and all those whose lives you impacted around the world. You were truly a friend to many. I am so grateful we did not waste a moment and made the most of our time together. It was so much shorter than I ever imagined. You are much loved and sorely missed. Beautiful daughter, it is beyond my capacity to believe that you have gone. I feel like you are at a camp or a friend's house, and I am waiting for you to come home. You did everything with all of your heart. You were so clever and witty, and so great at everything from maths and English to performing and the drums, which you loved so much. Your bread buns will never be forgotten. I am and always will be so proud of you. So many of your friends are thinking of you today. Your guiding and scouting friends from all over Australia and around the world. Your school friends all miss you so much. I am so privileged to be your mum. I told you often that if I could have chosen any daughter in the world, it would have been you. And that was always the truth. Thank you for sharing those wonderful 15 years of your life with me. Fly high, my darling, I love you. My dear family, we did not get an opportunity to say goodbye. I know that you are both with me and willing me to go on. So I do. But I miss you so much every day, and I look forward to the time when I will be with you again. Your loving wife and mum.
Message from Peter Hosking, father of Zoe Hosking. Zoe, we love and miss you every day. We are so proud of the wonderful person you were and the amazing person you would have become. Love, Lakota, Zoran, Kim and Dad.
A message from Norma and Larry Noyson. We are the parents of Barbara Hollander, in-laws of Martin Hollander, and grandparents of Brendan, Ben, and Matthew Hollander from Australia. All were victims of the 2019 eruption on White Island. After the tragedy, my husband Larry, daughter Karen and I flew directly to Auckland to identify our loved ones. We were only in New Zealand for a day. While our memories are very sad, when we think of your beautiful country, we will always remember the kindness extended to us by the people of New Zealand at a time when we needed it most. On behalf of our family, we would like to share this prayer with you all. I give you this one thought to keep. I am with you still, I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not think of me as gone. I am with you still in each new dawn.
E te māma he kupu anō mō Hayden. A message from Renee Radmaker, sister of Hayden Marshall Inman from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Unfortunately, I cannot be here today. Instead, I am in my second home in Canada. This day 1 year ago changed and impacted our lives forever. I am still deeply saddened and have spent most of the year preoccupied by the whys and what-ifs of that fateful day. But dwelling on that does not change anything. Hayden and I were close, and I knew that he thought of others before himself. But I wasn't fully aware of the extent of the above and beyond measures he took until I started reading all the messages strangers wrote to us, from giving away Chiefs tickets to private tours to glowworms and Tarawera Falls. What touches me most is that Hayden had such an impact on others. Complete strangers would trust him to drive them around and then hike into the bush without a second thought to show them how truly beautiful this country is. He was the epitome of a proud Kiwi. Similar to Hayden's strong will to go above and beyond was the team at Ka'u Helicopters. I never got to personally thank you all for what you did that day. I believe if you had have reached Hayden sooner, he still would have made sure everyone else was taken off the island before him. You are humble heroes. To those who lost loved ones, I feel your pain. And those who survived, I'm inspired by your will to fight and your strength to keep moving forward. First responders and hospital staff, who would have thought that in a small town like Whakatane, you would be thrown into such a large-scale trauma event, such as the Whakaari eruption. But what I have seen and heard, you handled that with determination and fortitude. And lastly, the White Island tour staff and fellow tourists, the courage it took to turn the boat around and head back to save those trapped on the island, to then care for them until you reach the medics. Your heroic actions like those of Ka'u Helicopters deserve recognition. Hayden would be proud of you for doing what you could. Remember to stay strong and know what you did also saved lives. My thoughts are with my families and all those that were affected on this day 1 year ago. Kia kaha.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be playing another clip on behalf of the services and the council.
Tēnā koutou. Ko mana hatu rāku whakamarumaru toi moana. Ko Clinton Nordia aho. On behalf of the Bay of Plenty Civil Defence Emergency Management Group, we stand in aroha and kotahitanga with everyone affected in the Whakaari tragedy. Today we honour the people who have been lost, and we stand in solidarity with those whose bodies and hearts has suffered so much. Our communities are still grieving, and we are especially aware today of the people who find this anniversary especially hard. Our sincere thoughts are with you. Kia ora.
Ka tangi te titi, ka tangi te kākā, ka tangi hoki ahau. The titi bird cries, the kaka bird cries, I cry also. Ko tēnei te rā i te maumaharatanga o ngā mate i taua wā i rungi i te motitapu a Whakaari. No reira i ngā mate hoki mai, hoki mai, hoki mai, e kore koutou e warewaretia i a mātou. Today we mark 12 months since the tragedy at Whakaari-White Island. I would like to acknowledge those who tragically lost their lives in the eruption, and those who survived and are bravely continuing their recovery journey. The eruption at Whakaari-White Island was not only life-changing for those on the island, but also for their immediate whānau, extended whānau and friends. We offer you our sincere aroha, love and support. At this time, I would also like to pay tribute to the tangata whenua, Ngāti Awa, the surrounding tribes of Whakatohia, the whānau Apanui, the Whakatane District Council and the Whakatane community for your resilience, care and compassion. At this time, I also recognise the first responders who played a critical role in the immediate response, and those support agencies within government and the wider community who worked tirelessly throughout the emergency operation. Nō reira, e tū kahi katoa, hei whakapai ururoa, awhi mai, awhi atu, tātou, tātou e.
O turu, turu, ko toka mauma, ko mauku, ko toka ra, uruku hia, te putanga rue, rere rungara waraki ngā rangi tuha, Ponga nui ori ngai tua Kuariro koe, kuariro koe Te puke ta puki pai pai au te Koru au moko he mapu ko tuku Te pere kura mate kara wakai Tangia te ruru wai puke tia nawa Ngā tohua rangi, ngā tohua nuku e Kuariro koe, kuariro koe E te kaponga nui ori ngai Kuariro koe, kuariro koe He mai mai aroha e Tangi a pakurana I ka pori atura te te Huia te peara ponga nui o ringa i tua. Kua riro koe, kua riro koe, te puke tapu ki pai pai au te a.
I would like to, Macy is one of our own, to explain the waiata. It has come about, I think, from her, well, I'll let her explain.
E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā kārangaranga maha. Tēnā koutou, tēnā no tātou katoa. Kia koutou, ngā whānau, parekuratia, nei rā no te aroha. E tuku ana kia koutou katoa. Kia ora tātou. This waiata, te puke tapu ki pai pai Aotea, was written in the midst of the tragedy. So I noticed that from Te Anga o Muriwai, the cave, all the way down to our wahi tapu, our rerenga wairua rocks, was rahui, was blocked off to us, the living, but wātea mai for those that had passed. So I decided to write a waiata for them, he kupu aki aki, hei arahi a rātou, from us, ngā te awa, from all of us. Just with words of guidance into the pathway into the next life. So, kia ora tātou.
Kia ora tātou. Whānau, that brings to an end our ceremony of remembrance today. I would like to, after karakia and himene, invite you all into our wharekai, to partake of some refreshments with us. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou ariki a iho karaiti. Me te aroha te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, 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 amine. Could I have you all stand and we will sing our waiata, himene, whakaaria mai. I understand the words are in your folders.
Tira o mai
tēnā o tātou, I rungi I te ingoa o te matua, o te tama, o te wairua tapu me ngānera pono me te māngai hei tautoko mai, aia nei, ake nei, ai. Kia ora te whāna.
It's our live broadcast from Te Manuka Tūtahi Marae in Whakatane, Aotearoa, New Zealand. The words of remembrance spoken today will be retained within the walls of our traditional meeting house, Mātātua, so that the memory of those who were lost a year ago today will never be forgotten. Thank you for joining Ngāti Awa, Maori Television and the people of Aotearoa, New Zealand for this memorial service. Whakaari, tērā whakamaumaharatanga. I'm Wena Harawira. Farewell, tēnā koutou.
Thank you.